could address this audience without a squandering sensation has stronger nerves than I have. I do not remember to have appeared as a speaker before the assembly more strangely nor with greater distrust of my abilities than I do this day. A feeling has crept over me quite unfavorably to the exercise of my limited powers of speech. Fellow citizens, pardon me. Allow me to ask, why am I here representing today? What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I, therefore, called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? Would to God, both for your sake and ours, that an affirmative answer could be truthfully returned to these questions. Then would my task be light and my burden easy and delightful? But such is not the case. I say it with a sad sense of the disparity between us. I am not included in the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The lessons in which you, this day, rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought light and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument is needed. Oh, had I the ability and could reach the nation's ears, I would today pour out a fiery stream of backbiting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern revolt. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. The feeling of this nation must be quickened. The conscience of this nation must be roused. The prosperity of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of this nation must be exposed, and its crime against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than any other day in the year the gross injustice, cruelty to which he is the constant victim. An unholy license, your natural greatness, swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted Puritans. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgiving, with all your religious parades say with me that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without a rival. Thank you. From my master's plantation in Eastern Maryland, by the Tuckahoe, as a slave. They say my birthday is February the 14th, 1818. I have you know that my mother, Harriet Bailey, she would run 12 miles 3 times a week in the darkness with no shoes on, coming to see her little Freddie. When she would come see me in the pit of the dark, knowing that she had to be back on her plantation, or else she would face the consequences, she would rock me, and she would sing me to sleep, and she would call me her little Valentine. My grandmother, Betty Bailey, after my mother, Harriet Bailey, died, would take care of me. They say my father is a white man, Aaron Anthony. They called him Captain Anthony. Well, as I grew, and by the time I got 7 years old, they would transfer me from Eastern Maryland to Baltimore. Once I got to Baltimore with Master Huard and his wife, Miss Sophia, and their little boy, Tommy, I was assigned to be little Tommy's slave. Miss Sophia, she committed a crime. The crime Miss Sophia committed, you may ask, she was teaching me how to read. And on one day, while I was sitting on the sofa, Master Huard came through the door. Miss Sophia, she was there teaching me to read. A, B, C. As soon as I said C, the door snapped over. It was Master Huard. Sophia, what are you doing? You better not be teaching that slave to read. You teach that slave to read, and then they're going to want to escape. And she said, but Hugh, I didn't know it was a crime. Well, he stepped to me, and he said, Frederick, you're not here to read. Don't never let me catch you reading again. I bowed my head. And he said, if I catch you reading again, I will have to whip you. Well, I'll have you know, even though he said I could not read again, he had opened a closed door in my mind. I wanted to read. Little Tommy used to go to school. He'd come home with his books. When he came home with his books, he would put them up in his room. The family would leave. I would sneak up to the room. And when I would go up into the room, I would open Tommy's books. As I opened Tommy's books, I would start tracing the names and writing. Well, one day they came home. The family came home. Frederick! Master Huard shouted out, where are you, Frederick? I hurried up and closed the book and I put it all back like it was. And I ran down, I dashed down the stairwell. And he said, you're not up there reading, are you? I said, no, Master. Not me. I'm not reading. I hate reading. He said, don't never let me catch you. I said, no, Master, you won't catch me. I said, out of here, but in my mind, I said, don't worry, you won't catch me. Well, it got to the point where they would start sending me to the store, running errands. Well, what I would do, I would go to the kitchen, and I would get a handful of bread, break it up, and stuff my pockets. And I would skip to the store. guys to give us some bread. And I said, no problem. You spell hat, H-A-T. And believe it or not, I would pay them with pieces of bread. And that helped me to get more and more educated. So much educated, when they would send me to the store, they would pay me. I'll say it again because you didn't hear me. They would pay me to go to the store. How much they paid me to go to the store? Anybody want to shout it out? No. How much? 5 cents? No, that's too much money. What? 1 cent. That's right. They will pay me 1 penny. But you know what I did with that 1 penny? I would save those pennies. I saved them until I got enough to buy my first book, the Columbian Order. And that Columbian Order book, it had inside of it many speeches. Speeches from Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and other notable writers and speakers. And I would read that book constantly. Well, because I read that book constantly, Master Huard, he said, "You're too intelligent." At the age of 15, he loaned me out to another slave master. That other slave master was no other than Master Corvée. I'm 15 years old. I'm bronze. I'm like Hercules because I was doing hard work. So that built me up. Well, the first day I got there to Master Corvée, the first thing he did to me, he whipped me. The second thing he did to me, he whipped me. The third thing he did to me, he whipped me for 5 straight days. He broke me. He broke this stallion. One day, I ran, and I ran to a gentleman by the name of Mr. Lawson. Mr. Lawson was a free slave living out in the woods. Mr. Lawson told me, he said, "Freddie, if you don't want any more whippings, take this rabbit foot." And I was like, "I don't want no rabbit foot. I don't believe in superstition." He said, "Okay, no problem. I tell you what, you don't take it, go back and get some more whippings." I took it, and I put it in my right pocket. Well, when I made it back to the plantation, and I went to go over the fence, when I went to make my way over the fence, and I stepped over, who was coming at me? Master Corvée. I took my feet, and I ran again. I came back a little later, and I went to go over the fence. He was coming again with a whip. Again, I pulled back and ran. I didn't come back to the next day, which was Sunday. When he saw me, he said, "Frederick!" He scared me. He scared me. Well, guess what? When he came, he said, "Come in, Frederick. Take the day off." But the next day, when I was in the barn, he came in with a whip. And when he whipped, the whip went out, I grabbed the whip, and we started tussling. When I threw him down, he got up and he said, "Frederick, you must want to die today." I said, "Master, I guess I'm going to die. But you're not going to whip me no more." And we fought for 2 hours. When it was all said and done, he was on the ground and I was standing over him. The rest of my time on that plantation for a year, my powerful young people, Master Corvée never touched me again. He might have whipped other slaves, but he never touched me again. And in the time that I have left, I had a meeting. Later on, in 1862, I made my way to the White House. In that White House, I became the first black man. You might think President Obama, but I was the first black man to enter into the Oval Office of the White House and have a discussion with President Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln asked me, "Mr. Douglass, what can I do for you today?" I kindly sat there and I crossed my legs and I said, "Mr. President, I would like to talk about slaves and their freedom." We talked for about 2 hours. And when it was all said and done, interred in Honoki Cemetery in Rochester, New York. If you ever get a chance, I welcome you to come and see me in Rochester, New York. If you ever get a chance, I welcome you to come to my home in Anacostia, Maryland. They call it Cedar Hill. You are invited if you ever get a chance. As I get ready to close, unfortunately, please take a moment to observe what's going on behind me. What you see behind me are pictures of Frederick Douglass' home. I took on the role of Frederick Douglass in 2009 because I didn't want his spirit to die. Ladies and gentlemen, I constantly get asked, am I kin or is Frederick Douglass my great-great-great-grandfather? Mr. Douglass and I are not kin, but I will say it. I love him and I thank him for all that he's done. I love each and every one of you all as well.